You're tuned in to News Now on KFUG Community Radio 101.1 FM and streaming online at kfugradio.org. This co-production between KFUG, the Wild Rivers Outpost, and Redwood Voice is bringing you the latest happenings right here in Del Norte County. On tonight's stories, the COVID-19 pandemic is surging all across our nation, including right here in Del Norte County. Hear about the many ways that it affects us. Positive new agreement has come around on the Klamath River Dam removal. Caltrans looks into refining new routes that would move around Last Chance grade. Tune into these and many more stories on tonight's News Now. For KFUG Community Radio, I'm Persephone Rose. I'm joined by Critz and Gwendolyn Rose Lucas. First things first, the COVID-19 update. News on the COVID situation as it stands right now, like you've come to expect. This information was written and valid as of December 1st, so please be aware of any changes that may have come since then. Upon writing this, there have been a total of 313 confirmed cases of COVID in Del Norte County. That is up 93 since our last report on News Now, when it was at 220. There are currently 93 active cases. 10,398 tests have been administered. There are currently no hospitalizations, but in total we have experienced 5 hospitalizations throughout the duration of the pandemic, 2 of which are new since our last report. There's been a total of 1 death due to COVID-19 during the pandemic in Del Norte County. All of this is according to the Information Hub on the Del Norte County Public Health's website. If you would like to further track this information, you can find it at covid19.dnco.org. Yes, that's right. Our COVID-19 numbers are not only higher than they've ever been, but they are growing at quite a rapid pace and will likely continue to do so. Now more than ever, it is important to remember the health and safety guidelines of the pandemic. Social distancing, staying at home, wearing your mask, especially in this dangerous time of non-believers, COVID deniers, and those who would let their own ego and pride get in the way of community health and safety. In other COVID-19 news, the Wild Rivers Community Foundation is working to assist various local organizations this holiday season amidst the pandemic. From a news release from the foundation, WRCF awarded $25,000 in holiday partnership grants to 21 nonprofit organizations, agencies, and churches that provide thousands of children and adults in Curry and Del Norte counties with much-needed food, clothing, gifts, and other services. Director Gina Zatola said, quote, "These grants will support the work of many amazing organizations in our community that serve those who really need help, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are so blessed by these community efforts, and this partnership will touch more than 5,000 lives." End quote. A virtual celebration of the holiday grants via Zoom is scheduled for 3 p.m. on December 9th. Everyone is welcome to attend the celebration to hear the wonderful stories from each of the organizations. For more information and a link to the Zoom celebration, you can call 707-465-1238. Again, that's 707-465-1238. This is the 13th year that WRCF has awarded holiday grants ranging from $250 to $2,500. The grants, funded by donations from family trusts, foundations, businesses, and individuals, support programs that provide children with winter coats or Christmas presents and holiday food for hungry families. The grants are also used for warm clothes for struggling veterans and the homeless, and support services for abused or neglected children. The Brookings Elks Lodge number 1934 will use their grant to provide needy individuals and families with Christmas food baskets that provide a full meal and include a turkey. They anticipate serving about 1,500 people. Similarly, the Boys and Girls Club of the Yurok Tribe in Klamath will use their grant to host a drive-up event during which families can pick up a wrapped gift for children and food supplies to help with holiday dinners. They hope to provide gifts for 100 children and meals for about 100 families. Club director Harold Jones said, quote, "We would usually host a holiday family gathering and a dinner for our club members, but due to COVID-19, we will not be able to do so this year." End quote. Court-appointed Special Advocates, or CASA of Del Norte, will apply its grant to a holiday gift-giving Making Memories program to support about 86 children placed in homes due to abuse or neglect, said Executive Director Christine Slett. Children will receive a warm blanket, stocking hat, a book, and a gift certificate donated by local businesses. According to Slett, quote, "The holiday season can be an especially difficult time of year for foster children because they have been separated from their families. They may feel anxiety, depression, or anger. This year, due to COVID-19, we're anticipating an increase in those mental issues and more." End quote.
After the Crescent City Council urged members of the public to conduct business remotely due to a surge in local COVID-19 cases, Del Norte County is following suit. Noting that Del Norte has moved into the state's most restrictive purple tier on its blueprint for a safer economy, indicating widespread risk of viral infection, the county is limiting public access to protect its residents and employees. From a Wednesday news release, quote, "As you are aware, Del Norte County has moved to the purple tier or widespread tier 1 status due to the significant increase in COVID-19 case activity within our community. In order to protect county employees as well as members of the public, the county is limiting public access to all county facilities beginning Monday, November 30th, 2020. In-person meetings may be accommodated by contacting departments directly. The limitations will be similar to those enacted back in April. The county will continue to evaluate the situation in 2-week increments, or when a reduction in tier status occurs. To obtain links to a specific department, please visit the county website." End quote.
County supervisors last Tuesday approved a last step in the Department of Health and Human Services endeavor to turn Coastal Inn and Suites into a permanent supportive housing program. 4 supervisors approved a budget transfer of nearly $2.8 million in Project Homekey dollars, which is necessary to pay escrow and closing costs as part of the hotel purchase. According to the DHHS Director Heather Snow, escrow will have come to a close at the end of November. District 1 Supervisor Roger Gitland was absent at last Tuesday's special meeting, according to Snow's Secretary Patrick Morning. This decision comes about a month after supervisors gave DHHS the go-ahead to buy the 30-unit motel at 665 L Street in Crescent City using state Project Homekey dollars. The purchase price was about $1.9 million. At that October 13th Board of Supervisors meeting, Snow said DHHS had been housing 43 adults and 7 children at the motel through a similar state program, Project Roomkey. Citing data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Snow said the number of people living at Coastal Inn and Suites as of October 13th accounted for 27% of Del Norte County's homeless population. Snow also told supervisors that according to HUD, 224 Del Norte County residents were homeless in 2020. The state of California notified counties in July that support was available for housing the homeless during the COVID-19 pandemic through Project Homekey. These dollars would allow for the purchase of motels to house the homeless, though the money needed to be spent by December 31st and the facility had to be occupied within 90 days. Project Homekey also required that the program created house at least 5% of the county's homeless population. DHHS's proposed purchase of Coastal Inn and Suites for a permanent supportive housing program drew opposition from a handful of residents, including Gitland, who participated in an October 8th protest outside the hotel. They argued that the location on US 101 was unsafe and would constitute blight, since that's the main route visitors take through Crescent City. The endeavor also drew mixed support from Crescent City Council, which sent a letter saying that while the councilors supported the program, they were disappointed at a lack of communication.
Philip L. Williams will replace incumbent Edward Horse Aubrey as North District Representative, while Toby Van Landingham will continue to represent the Waitchpeck District on the Yurok Tribal Council. According to the results of the Yurok Tribe's runoff election, certified Tuesday, Williams received 57% of the vote to Aubrey's 43% for the North District. As for the Waitchpeck District, Van Landingham received 66.52% of the vote to challenger Lucinda Inde Myers' 43.48%, according to the election results. There were no challenges for the runoff election, according to a Yurok Tribe press release.
Berkshire Hathaway's Pacificorp has signed into a new agreement with Oregon, California, the Yurok and Karuk tribes, paving the way forward toward Klamath River Dam removal in 2023. California Department of Fish and Wildlife Director Charles Bonham said, "The Memorandum of Agreement advances the most ambitious salmon restoration effort in history, establishing the Klamath River Renewal Corporation as the entity in charge of removing 4 obsolete dams. The agreement retains the liability protections for PacifiCorp's customers that were established in 2016's Klamath Hydroelectric Settlement Agreement," Bonham said, "and advances the planning and permitting work needed to finish the project." Bonham said, quote, "As of today, actually probably while we're speaking, we will be filing a license surrender application in front of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, which has jurisdiction over these dams," end quote. In January, the 5 parties in this settlement agreement will submit another application to FERC, removing PacifiCorp from the project's license and adding California, Oregon, and the KRRC on as co-licensees to remove the dams. Bonham said, quote, "Adding the states in this role assures we have sufficient backing to get the settlement agreement done. It honors prior settlement terms in which PacifiCorp would not be co-licensee for removal. It is entirely responsive to an order we have from FERC confirming the project, but asking the question, is there sufficient backing?" End quote. According to a news release from KRRC, the parties also agreed to double available contingency funds. Oregon, California, and PacifiCorp will share these costs equally to address FERC's requirement that the process is fully funded. Bonham said the project is on track to begin in 2022, with the J.C. Boyle, Copco 1, Copco 2, and Iron Gate dams being removed in 2023. Restoration work will continue beyond 2023. KRRC's amended license surrender application to FERC explains how the organization proposes to remove the dams, said CEO Mike Bransom. Bransom said, quote, "Our engineering, work, and constructability reviews are nearly complete. We've built a comprehensive insurance package and put in place risk management mitigation and measures to provide protection for all parties. Today, we're crossing a historic threshold to ensure dam removal remains on track," end quote. The new Memorandum of Agreement comes after FERC in July approved the partial transfer of the dam's license from PacifiCorp to KRRC. PacifiCorp representatives argued that the decision changed the terms of the 2016 Hydroelectric Settlement Agreement, making the utility liable for all the project costs and liabilities. Removing the dams would cost an estimated $434 million. KRRC has a project budget of $450 million, with $200 million coming from a PacifiCorp surcharge to its California and Oregon customers, and $250 million coming from California water bond dollars. The agreement comes after months of pressure from tribes, conservationists, as well as congressional leaders, according to a Tuesday news release from Congressman Jared Huffman. In August, Huffman questioned PacifiCorp's representatives about the utility's response to the FERC's order. Huffman said, quote, "I've been warning for months that a failure to keep Klamath dam removal on track would not only imperil the cultural and economically vital salmon fisheries on the river, but would irreparably damage Berkshire Hathaway and PacifiCorp's reputations. It appears that message was received, and Warren Buffett has done the right thing to work with the Yurok and Karuk tribes, as well as the states, to get it done. The state's efforts and willingness to take this on have been nothing short of remarkable," end quote. On Tuesday, Greg Abel, chairman of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, PacifiCorp's parent company, acknowledged tribal leaders, but said there's more work to be done together. Abel said, quote, "I'm pleased to restate Berkshire Hathaway and PacifiCorp's commitment to seeing the agreement fully implemented, including the removal of the dams, not just regarding the signing of the agreement. We know the issue of removal of the dams is one of incredible importance to the tribes and is a matter of social, economic, and racial justice," end quote. Joseph L. James, chairman of the Yurok tribe, called the new agreement a new day and a new era for California tribes. He said, quote, "We're a natural resource tribe. It is our duty and our oath to bring balance to the river. In this effort, we're fulfilling that duty," end quote. James recognized the tribe's water warriors, the activists that protested and held the front lines to fight for the Klamath River. He also acknowledged the Yurok tribe's former executive director, the late Troy Fletcher, who advocated for dam removal. James said of Fletcher, quote, "He's here with me today," end quote. Karuk Tribal Chairman Russell Buster Atterbury also called the occasion a special day, noting that since the beginning of time, his people have depended on the river's salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, and eels for sustenance. Atterbury said, quote, "The worst day is when I said there is no fish available for our tribal members, our elders, our children. I'm looking forward to having the best day as chairman of the Karuk tribe when I can say, we have restored these fish, and we can enjoy bonding times with our children when we can go to the river and we can put food on the table together," end quote.
Measure S's success provided a financial path for Crescent City councilors to reopen the swimming pool, but COVID-19, as you probably assume from the earlier reports in this newscast, has thrown up a roadblock. Councilors on Monday authorized city staff to hire an aquatic supervisor who would be trained and become familiar with operations at the Fred Endert Municipal Swimming Pool, but a local spike in cases, which at the time of this writing was nowhere near as bad as we are currently, has moved Del Norte County into the red, or substantial tier, on California's blueprint for a safer economy, which means the pool must stay closed, City Manager Eric Weir said. He told councilors, quote, "These cases we're seeing now are just in the pipeline. We haven't seen the end of this yet, we don't think. Red for us means the pool cannot open." End quote. Weir had planned to ask councilors if staff could dip into the general fund to begin heating the pool and hiring lifeguards, knowing that the city would receive its first payment from the sales tax measure in June. By the council's meeting, however, Public Health Officer Dr. Warren Raywalt announced that the county moved to the second highest tier on the blueprint, subjecting local businesses to greater restriction to slow transmission of the disease. Raywalt further stated that he wasn't confident an appeal to state health officials would prompt them to rethink Del Norte County's position on the blueprint due to spikes in COVID-19 cases both statewide and nationally. The Crescent City Council closed the pool on March 16th due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the summer wore on, councilors realized that not only would they have to keep the pool closed because of the pandemic, with an $800,000 budget deficit for the 2020-21 fiscal year, reopening it wasn't financially feasible. At about $370,000 a year, keeping the swimming pool closed made up the bulk of savings realized by several cuts to the general fund. Councilors and city staff put their energies towards a 1% sales tax measure, Measure S, that, if successful, would generate $1.3 million to be used for emergency response, roads, and keeping the pool sustainable. On November 3rd, 903 Crescent City voters approved Measure S according to the Del Norte County Elections Office. About a month prior, Holly Wint, the city's recreation director, presented councilors with a reopening plan for the pool during the COVID-19 pandemic. Bring back lap swimming, exercise programs, aerobic classes, and swim lessons. But she advised them to wait on reopening the pool until voters weighed in on Measure S. Though the council is holding off on hiring lifeguards because of the spike in coronavirus cases, the aquatic supervisor position had been advertised before the pandemic started, Wint said. Qualified individuals had already applied for the position. Eventually, the city would like to provide space for physical therapy as well as the Coast Maiders swim team, Wint said. These services would be by reservation only, proposing to use the Sign-Up Genius booking system that Arcata uses as its city pool. Under state guidelines, small counties move into more restrictive levels on the blueprint for a safer economy if they have 15 or more new novel coronavirus cases each week for 2 weeks in a row. Del Norte County had been in the orange or moderate tier up until a few days ago, and once again, we are currently in the purple tier. On Monday, Weir said if a small county's COVID-19 case count suddenly skyrockets, the state could impose further restrictions. Siskiyou and Trinity counties, he said, had gone from the orange moderate tier to the purple or widespread tier last week, which, again at the time of this report, is where we actually are now. We're speculating that the recent uptick in COVID-19 cases may be a remnant of gatherings during Halloween, noted that with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's coming up, Del Norte County would be in the state's restrictive tiers for some time. Weir recommended the council approve the aquatic supervisor hire, but take the pause to understand what the tiers and metrics mean. He said having all the resources in place at the pool would cost the city about $40,000 to $45,000 a month. Noting that the swimming pool can't open during the current public health situation, Councillor Alex Fallman suggested that he and his colleagues wait on making a decision. He said, quote, "Measure S just passed. We don't know what the budget will be like. I'm not anxious to get the pool open now." End quote. Councillor Isaiah Wright, a teacher with the Del Norte Unified School District, noted that kids are also going to be on winter break and could be traveling out of the area. He said, referring to reopening the pool, quote, "We probably shouldn't have a date any sooner than 2 weeks after that. The problem with opening before then, too, is a lot of people are going to be traveling, and you have an incubation period, and we'll probably see an uptick." End quote.
Del Norte County is one of 45 that are in the state's most restrictive tier, courtesy of covid19.ca.gov. Del Norte businesses were given 24 hours Thanksgiving week to cordon off public business to outdoors operation only. The county's new status on California's blueprint for a safer economy comes after more than 50 novel coronavirus cases were identified the week prior to that, according to a letter from the public health officer, Dr. Warren Raybould. Roughly 20 new cases were reported to the public health branch on the weekend prior to Thanksgiving week alone, Raybould said in a letter to the community. All we need to move to purple is 35 cases in a week, he said. According to the state's COVID-19 webpage, Del Norte County has had 22.3 new cases per day per 100,000 people, and a test positivity rate of 3.4%. On Monday, Raybould told the Wild Rivers Outpost that a state metric for small counties allows them to stay in a less restrictive tier if they have up to, but no more than, 14 cases per week. Raybould spoke at a city council meeting, giving a special update last week. California's blueprint for a safe economy consists of 4 color-coded tiers, with yellow and orange containing the least restrictive measures, and red and purple containing the strictest. Del Norte County moved up to the red less than 2 weeks ago. Under the purple tier, most businesses and activities, including restaurants, movie theaters, museums, gyms, aquariums, and places of worship, must operate outdoors only. Retailers and shopping centers are required to operate at 25% indoor capacity only. No food courts are allowed. K-12 schools, usually already open to in-person instruction, are required to offer distance learning programs only. Last Monday, Del Norte Unified School District sent a letter to parents notifying them that though the county had moved into the red tier on the state's blueprint for a safer economy, in-person learning would continue when class resumed following the Thanksgiving break. The letter also stated that education officials would be taking steps to reopen Del Norte High School to in-person learning for its second semester. The district urged parents to take precautions during the holidays, requiring face masks for all students, including the youngest. For families that are traveling or hosting guests from out of the area during the holidays, the district asked that parents require a 2-week independent study period for their students. The district also urged parents to keep sick students at home.
After a summer of flying drill rigs in by helicopter, collecting photogrammetry and LiDAR data around the Last Chance grade site, Caltrans will spend next year refining alternatives for rerouting US 101 around the landslide. Meanwhile, the state's transportation agency received another $16 million, all the funding it needs to keep the road's current alignment operational, project manager Jamie Mattioli said Thursday. The current work to stabilize the highway will include having to close the road down at night, possibly next spring, he said. Mattioli said, quote, "This is a landslide project. Under the existing alignment, there are active landslides. There are also ancient landslides to the east of the ridge, where several of the alternatives are proposed. We're collecting information about the geology so we can understand and design the alternatives," end quote. At a virtual town hall meeting hosted by State Senator Mike McGuire, Mattioli and Dina Potter, a consultant with Kansas City, Missouri infrastructure firm, outlined the progress made towards selecting an alternate route around the landslide 10 miles south of Crescent City. They also discussed next steps, challenges faced in keeping the project on schedule, and ways Caltrans could potentially shave time on getting the endeavor closer to construction. Mattioli and Potter were joined by Caltrans District 1 Director Matthew Brady, Sebastian Cohen, Caltrans Area Construction Manager, Victor Behelahak, District Superintendent for California State Parks North Coast Redwood Sector, and Matt Smets, Project Delivery Director for the Federal Highway Administration. Other topics discussed included being able to complete the project with minimal impact to cultural resources and sensitive species, including old-growth redwoods. They also discussed whether the installation of broadband will be included in the highway's new alignment, and what would happen if the road should fail before an alternative is found. This is a question Cohen said he's received for many years. Cohen said, quote, "If the roadway failed at one location and we couldn't rebuild a wall there, we would retreat, cut into the hillside. That's why we've committed to making sure the grade is open. We're comfortable if a substantial failure occurs, and we'll get out of there with an emergency project to stabilize the roadway or retreat to a stable area. It depends on how it would fail," end quote. HNTB consultant Dina Potter presented a timeline of the Last Chance Grade project during a virtual town hall meeting. The Last Chance Grade project spans a 3-mile stretch of road with 4 active, deep-seated, slow-moving landslides, bordered by an ocean of trees to the east and an actual ocean on the west, Mattioli said. The area is in the middle of Redwood National and State Parks, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and is within the ancestral territory to 5 tribal governments. This year, crews have raised the road about 18 feet, installing new walls and leveling off a dip in the highway locals have called the ski jump, Cohen said. The project required closing the highway at night for about 5 days last summer, and will likely require another nighttime closure after the holidays, between January and February, or by June at the latest, Cohen said. With the additional $16 million, Caltrans will have the money to finish all the emergency work needed, while it also works on getting through the bypass project, he said. For the larger Last Chance Grade project, Caltrans is considering 6 possible routes around the landslide, while a 7th option would leave the highway's current alignment as is. The 6 routes vary in length from 1.5 miles to 3.5 miles, and a range in cost from around $300 million to $2 billion. 4 alternatives include bridges, 3 include tunnels. 1 possible route consists of a full tunnel paralleling the existing alignment and has an estimated cost of $1.1 billion to $2 billion. There are 4 working groups committed to the project, including one formed by Congressman Jared Huffman, who joined Thursday's meeting briefly. There is also a cultural resources working group that includes members of the 5 tribes with ancestral territory in that area. According to Matteoli, those tribes are co-signatories on a programmatic agreement with Caltrans that cements the procedures in place to ensure minimal impact to sensitive sites. Caltrans is currently in its 3rd year of collecting geotechnical data using $50 million from the California Transportation Commission. Matteoli noted that ancient and dormant landslides exist east of the highway's current alignment. The geotechnical studies will help determine the best possible alternative, collecting data on rock material, movement, and the role groundwater and rain plays in that movement. The data not only helps shape the design of US 101's alternative route, it will help Caltrans compare alternatives to determine which option will have the least long-term risk of failure, he said. Caltrans and HNTB will also conduct a tree survey in 2021, particularly at the north end of the project where known old-growth areas are, Potter said. She said, quote, "We're working with different working groups to go through alternative analysis. Are there alternatives that meet the purpose and need but have higher environmental impacts that we can drop out? Let's look at the ones that have the best opportunity of being selected at the end to save time and save money," end quote. According to Potter, armed with geotechnical data, her firm and Caltrans will draft an environmental document in 2022 and conduct a public hearing to help identify an alternative in 2023. There could be a 2-year period to conduct ground-disturbing activities to help find a clear alternative that would result in minimal impact to sensitive cultural and natural resources, she said. The agency will need to obtain environmental permits and prepare final design plans with public input, and then construction would begin by 2026, Potter said. She also said that HNTB and Caltrans are working to shave off as much time of the project's schedule as possible. One way is to prepare the project's final design in conjunction with obtaining the necessary environmental permits. Noting there are 900 acres involved with the project, Potter said Caltrans is also working with Redwood National and State Parks to determine where sensitive resources are. She said, quote, "We're going slow a little bit on the front end to save litigation on the back end. Remembering in the end that will cost more time than anything. We want to protect the project from that," end quote. Behelahak noted that all the proposed alternatives involve putting US 101 through Del Norte Redwood State Park, with some impacting more old-growth redwoods than others. He noted that the project could also impact some of the park's second-growth redwood stands, but said Caltrans is working with state parks and others to determine the most sustainable path with the least amount of impacts. He said, quote, "Sadly, but necessarily, we will be removing old-growth redwoods. They will be impacted by this project, and we're looking to do the least amount of impact that we can to get an alternative in there to give us the most sustainable roadway for the public to use," end quote. Another question touched on gas tax dollars generated by the California Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, or SB1. McGuire noted that even though many Del Norte County voters supported a repeal of the gas tax, it provides a significant portion of the funding necessary to build the highway around Last Chance Grade. He said, quote, "My understanding is there is no way to get this thing built without the gas tax." Brady noted that much of the funding for Caltrans' State Highway Operation and Protection Program, which includes road maintenance and rehabilitation, comes from those SB1 dollars too.
Hey everyone, it's Persephone here, breaking out of the news segment just a bit to leave you with a good old call to action. We live in strange times, even on a local level in our small county. Okay, at this point, can we get some dramatic music? Oh, cool, thank you. Listen, Del Norte County has had problems for a long time. The county has also had plenty of good things for a long time. And for a long time, it's had a lot of things that just kind of slip under the radar altogether. The kind of things you don't hear about till someone takes the time to bring it up. And you know what else has been around for a long time? Redwood Voice. No, seriously, it's been around even longer than your beloved radio station, KFUG Community Radio, and it's looked very different as time has gone on, each year basically bringing a new iteration of the program. Our mission has always been amplifying voices, bringing a light to things, using various forms of media and production to ultimately drive movements, change, and at the bare minimum, spread information throughout our community, like the newscast you're listening to right now. And we can't do that alone. I mean, come on, for the longest time we've had a team of 2 people and we're just training our 3rd member. We have a lot on our plate with hopes to do even more, but to get to even bigger and better things, our team needs to grow. And with that also means local youth getting involved in bigger and better things, winky face. So yes, that's right. Redwood Voice is hiring and expanding, in search of youths experienced and or just plain interested in working with media. No, don't shrug it off. Don't say this doesn't include you. Stop that. If you're a youth who either has experience or, again, just plain interest in working with media, we want to hear from you. There are plenty of roles to fill. Writers, video editors, audio editors, copy editors, all manners of production going on and the means to do it. So let's talk. Let's see if we have something for you. You can contact us at any point from a number of places. Message us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/redwoodvoice.dnatl. Email us at redwoodvoicedn@gmail.com. We have an Instagram at redwood.voice and a Twitter at redwoodvoice, where you can also message us. We hope to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in to News Now. To hear more episodes of our newscast, check out kfugradio.org or our YouTube channel. Special thanks to Wild Rivers Outpost and Jessica Saynar, Crescent City Bureau Chief, for providing great content. Tune in 2 weeks from now to KFUG Community Radio 101.1 FM or stream online on kfugradio.org to hear more news from your favorite local radio station. This newscast was edited by Persephone Rose. The voices of this newscast were Persephone Rose, Avi Critz, Gwendolyn Rose,